We're getting literary today. I'm not so much a big reader in the novel in the written word sense, but ever since high school, I've been really big into manga. It's always hard for me to pick favorites with like literally anything. So today, instead of picking, here's my favorite, this is my favorite Kermit the Frog version. Instead of picking like my top 10 favorite manga or anything like that, instead what we're gonna do is walk through some of the things that I've been reading lately, or maybe some things that you might be interested in reading, because I think they're interesting. I have tried very hard to narrow down the selection. I was like, oh, we'll just do like 5 volumes of something. Nope, couldn't do it. Here are 10 series or manga, graphic novels, whatever, that you should maybe take a look at. One other thing, I've tried to pick manga that should be like accessible to anyone in the sense that, it's not adult or like too childish. I think they all fall in the teen to older teen range, but there's like a variety of themes. You might be surprised what pops up. We're gonna start with Complex Age, which I think is a great graphic novel series. First of all, a slice of life, so it's very accessible. These are normal people, but they're geeks. In particular, it follows a young woman, a 26-year-old woman, Nagisa, and she's a cosplayer. I don't know how many people cosplay, but that alone might be relatable. But I think what makes it a really interesting story is it's about a woman who is like a bit of an outsider in the sense that like cosplay is not super accepted where she works and in general in society that she works in. It's about a woman growing up. It's about a woman kind of dealing with like familial issues relating to your parents and growing up and the complexities of all of that stuff, which is maybe why it's called, or at least translated as, Complex Age. It is great. I cried multiple times. The first 3 series we're going to talk about are just like, hope you're ready to cry a little bit. I found it really relatable, even as somebody who's not a cosplayer, but just as like that experience of like growing up and trying to understand how you want to fit into the world. This is great, you should read it. There's going to be a lot of this is great, you should read it, in a completely different area, but also slice of life. I don't know if it's autobiographical or not, but we have My Brother's Husband. It is about a man, a single man, and his daughter, a divorced man, I should say. This man has a twin. I'm also working off of memory, so I don't remember this precisely, but I believe he has a twin. And his twin brother was married to this Canadian guy who comes to visit. And it turns out the Canadian guy was his brother's husband. Hence the title, My Brother's Husband. What is really interesting about it is, it's a little bit of cultural. It's like, what is it like with a Canadian coming to Japan and that experience? It looks at things in a ways that you've never looked at. It's like, how does society view people who are divorced? How does it view people who are queer or gay? It talks a little bit about some of the discrimination, and it talks a lot about like the main character and how he has these impressions of what like gay people are like and how that changes over the course of the 2 volumes. It is fantastic. It is another be prepared to cry, and you should read it. Next manga recommendations. You should read it. I don't know why I got so into queer-related manga or queer-adjacent manga, but it's called My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness. And it talks about this woman's experience growing up, having her sexuality feel oppressed, but like also like growing up with some anxiety and depression and things like that, and like not really understanding herself and working through that loneliness. And it just so happens that it's an exploration of gender and sexuality as well. I haven't read it in a little while, so I don't remember it as well, but I think there's just something like really relatable about this author's work in general. I think she has 3 other works that are published in English. They're like very personal. They are definitely autobiographical, and I cried a lot. I swear this is the last one where it's like I cried a lot. There was something about this, especially when I was reading it, that felt relatable. I think it's the sense of loneliness that it's conveyed in it and getting to feel more connected with other people. And it's good. Let's change gears. You know what's the exact opposite? Real Account. This is a long-running series that I haven't finished. The ones that I'd mentioned previously, I believe, are all published and released. Real Account is a weird... Do you like Danganronpa? Do you like Zero Escape? You will probably like Real Account. It is this weird story about a company that abducts people and is running this weird social game, and then it's running a different social game, but there's a lot of battle royale elements, and there's this main character who seems to have a split personality, and there's this twin brother. It's complicated, and the volumes aren't released super often, so I often forget what's going on, but there's something about it that's really compelling in the same way that Danganronpa and Zero Escape are. It's got this combination of, oh, this is a really intriguing social idea, but then also here's teehee, there's a little bit of lewdness, and it's just like, why? I don't get it. It's fun, and I want to know how it ends. It's Danganronpa. It's like Danganronpa. Another manga that I've really been enjoying, Go with the Clouds North by Northwest. It is about a young man, I believe he's a teenager, and he lives with his grandfather in Iceland. Part of what I found compelling about this was having been to Iceland exactly once, just being able to see all of the places again in manga form. Like they go to the Blue Lagoon, they go to a bunch of famous places, they go to Reykjavik, obviously they live in Reykjavik. So just like seeing stuff in the manga is really cool. But it's a mystery. There's a bunch of elements that haven't become clear. This teen is trying to find his brother. His brother is connected to all these strange murders and is being hunted by the police. His younger brother. So there's some weird supernatural element. Also, the kid seems to be able to talk with cars. It's intriguing. It's not as weird as it sounds. It's mostly mundane. This kid gets by doing private investigative work, like just like following up on people or running errands or things like that in Iceland. But it's like a weird like travel mystery kind of story, but also it's in Iceland and that's great. Sex ed 120%. It is pretty much I would say what it looks like, but what does this tell you? I don't know what it tells you. It's about the health teacher, and she teaches her students about sex education. Like very broadly, it talks about gender and sex, and it's in a very non-judgmental way. Some of the students are like in romantic relationships. One of them is asexual and is fascinated with cats. It's just fun and cute and interesting, and it also has the main character, the teacher, who is bisexual and is like very open about that with their students and about discrimination. It's also funny because there's a couple points in it where they make a specific point of saying the principal is very progressive. It's fun and it's short, and I believe it has a bunch of interesting like factoids too. Delicious in Dungeon. If you wanted to imagine a manga that was about your D&D party, except they had a Food Network show, but not in the like Adventure Zone sense, that is Delicious in Dungeon. The short version of the story is the main character and his party of folks explore this dungeon that's near town, and his sister on this adventure dies. Everybody gets resurrected, but she can't. I can't remember why. So they decide to go back down into the dungeon and try to save her. The story gets way more complicated than there, especially as they have a new character join the party who's a dwarf. People don't know what dwarves are, so that's fascinating, but he's been living in the dungeon and obviously subsisting off of all of the monsters and plant life that live there. But people don't generally eat monster or dungeon food. So it's like this interesting taboo thing, but also every volume has like tons of sections like this, which is, hey, look at this recipe that we made from dungeon stuff. Here's its stats. And so just reading through it, we're constantly trying to find ways to accommodate her. It's funny, it's not really educational. I guess there's a little bit about cooking, but it's a lot of fun. And the main character is obsessed with eating monsters, even though he doesn't want anyone to know that because it's weird. Hey, do you like Harry Potter but don't want to support a TERF? You should check out Witch Hat Atelier, which is honestly like a very large underselling. The series follows the main character Coco in this world of magic, but magic isn't something that everybody can learn, and it's shrouded in mystery. Coco has been wanting to learn magic, and it's not something that you can just generally do. I forget, it's like almost something you need to be born into. And there's a lot of like specifics about magic, Full Metal Alchemist style, like forbidden magic stuff. But anyway, one day she learns to do magic, which is done through like runes and drawings. She accidentally turns her mother to stone. And normally what would happen is they wipe her memory and just like be done with it. But this one witch, I think his name is Queefrey, he decides, no, I'm going to take you under my wing. And it kind of follows this interesting adventure of her learning to become a witch, and also these folks called the Brimmed Hats, who are bad guys, but maybe they're not. We're learning about this long-standing history of magic in relation to the world. And it's great. It's honestly great. I never read Harry Potter or any of those books. This is often brought up as like, do you like this? You'll probably like this. And it is also, it's beautiful. It's like, look at this artwork. Look at this artwork. And lastly, I got two choices here. I'm gonna go through them quickly because I've just really started them. They're both kind of romance stories. One is called Crossplay Love, which is about a boy who works at a maid cafe as a maid, and another boy who goes to the cafe who also dresses as a girl, and they both like each other, but it's because they think they're cute girls, and neither of them knows who the other one is. Secretly, the maid person is like a huge geek, and the other person who visits is like a kind of like a punk kind of character. It's cute because they also really like each other. And the other one, in a similar vein, I think I turned my childhood friend into a girl. It's about a guy who really likes doing makeup and doing makeup for his sister, but he can't really share that with anybody because men don't do makeup. Because gender rules. It's dumb. He manages to convince his friend, it's like, hey, could I do makeup on you? He does it, and his friend looks like very cute. The other character, I don't remember their names. I never remember any character names. But the boy who has the makeup done on him, he like really likes the main character, but like hasn't acted on it. And I suspect, regardless of how he presents himself, when he He's made up like a girl and dressed like a girl, has an easier time confessing his feelings, but the other guy's oblivious. It's just like a cute little romance. There was a bunch of other volumes that I would have liked to get to. I tried to keep it short. That is gonna be it for today. Tomorrow, you know what? I'm not gonna spoil the surprise. And it's good and you should read it, because hey, that's the theme. That's the theme of the recommendations today. That's the theme of the books that I'm showing off today. Oh God, is this one? I got it. I'm gonna trim a bunch of this.